Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be making a full uniform. These are the measurements for the little girl that I'll be making the uniform for. Here I'm just showing you an example of what I mean by front deepness from here to here. Also for the shoulder I have two measurements there. So 9 would be the back shoulder and 6 would be the front, because you know the front is normally more narrow than the back. I'm going to mark out my shoulder measurement, and that will be divided by 2 because this will be cut on fold. You should always add your seam allowance. So I'm going to add 1.5 inch, but you can also add 1 inch seam allowance. It's according to your preference. So I'll be marking out 6.5 for my shoulder measurement. Then I'm going to go ahead and just to straighten my lines, draw my lines to ensure that the edges are straight. And I'm going to draw another line where I am measuring out the armhole. So the armhole is 7 inches, and I'm just going to draw a line to match those 2 points. I will also draw another line straight across just to mark out that armhole area. From here I'm going to need my bust measurement, and remember the bust is right around, so I'm going to divide that by 4 instead of 2. So 21 divided by 4, and remember we always need to add our allowance. I like to work with 1.5 inches, but sometimes I will use 1 inch. So I'm going to divide that by 4 and add the seam allowance. My new measurement is 7.25, and I'm just going to measure that along the bust line. I'm just going to draw out my waistline. I didn't show when I was measuring it, but I did do so. So from here, I'm going to measure 2.5. That's going to be for the center. So 2.5 on the fold would give it 5 inches. So I'm going 3 inches deep, and I'm just going to connect those dots to form the center front. Because of the style of uniform that I'm making, I'm just going to go straight across like this. Then I'm going to put in my shoulder slant. So for the shoulder slant, you're going to go down 1 inch. Then you're going to connect that to the point where we mark the 2.5. So once we have done that, we're going to need to add in the curve for the armpit. And this is for the top part of the uniform. So both parts will be done separately. Oh, we didn't put in the waist measurement. So we're gonna mark out the waist measurement divided by 4 as well. So 20 divided by 4 would give us 5. I will add 2 inches here because I have to take in account the darts that I will put in this section of the uniform. So if you have 4 darts, of course you would need to put in like 4 inches. If you have 2 darts and you're doing 1/2 inch each, the 2 inches would be enough. So my darts are 1/2 inch each. Now I need to measure the midpoint from the waist to know where I'm going to put my darts. Because I need it at the midpoint, just fold your tape measure in half and it will show you the midpoint. So it saves time so that you don't have to be doing all that calculation. So from here I'm going to decide how far up I will go with the dart, then join my lines. we're going to go ahead to draw in the arm curve. And as you can see, I'm just trying to position it in such a way that it's drawn correctly. And normally when I join my arm curve, it goes a little bit beyond the straight line that I normally have. Once you have done that, your pattern is now ready to be cut out. At this point, I'm preparing my fabric to cut it on the fold. For the front part of this pattern, you're going to ensure that you have a little extra at the end because of how the design is. So when you place your pattern on the material, you're going to ensure that for the front section, ensure that you have a little at the edge that can be folded over, because the folded piece is what is going to help us to do the midsection the correct way. Because remember, we're going to add a color to this uniform. So when I see that I've had enough, you can fold over like 2 inches. It depends on what you want. So 2 to 3 inches over, and cut that out. From here, I'm just going to secure my pattern because I'm going to do a little folding to ensure that when I'm cutting out, I am cutting the folded edge as well. So just watch and see how I cut this section. This is a button front uniform, so I'm ensuring that I leave out enough space for the uniform to be able to overlap to account for the buttons. For the back, there will be 2 differences. So you are going to make sure that it's on the fold. And from the section that you see me fold right there, you're going to ensure that it's on the fold from that section. Instead of going down by 3 inches, you will go down by 1 inch and curve it when it reaches to the shoulder area. Hopefully you are able to understand. I had a little issue with that section of the video. So I am just going to cut out the sleeve. So this is a sleeve pattern that I have. It's a video that I watched and created my sleeve pattern. So I suggest that you could just watch a video on how to create a sleeve pattern. It's not difficult and you can cut out your sleeve. So I'm just gonna cut out my sleeve here. So I'm just going to press down the shirt section just to basically make it easier for me to handle. I like to press down my sections before I start sewing. I spoke earlier about the blouse overlapping. So this is what I mean to account for the buttons that will be there. So I want to ensure that it overlaps and still has the correct measurement. I'm now going to attach both sections of the blouse to ensure that they are in line and I don't have any edges to trim away. So once I've attached both of them and I see that it has about a 1-inch overlap, then it would have been done correctly. If I had any areas to trim off, I would have done that here. I'm just going to secure the sleeves because that's one of the first things that I normally do. After which we're going to secure and sew the midsection. This is how the blouse is looking when I have secured and serged the shoulders. I've already hemmed my sleeves, so I'm just going to attach the sleeves to the blouse. Just secure both sleeves with pins, and after that we're going to sew it on. Once I've secured the sleeve with pins, I like to check to make sure the measurement is on point with the 1-inch overlap. If it's not on point and I need to go in a little deeper, I normally do that, or if I need to go out a little further. So that's the adjustment I'm making here. So you always want to measure to ensure that you have the correct measurement, especially if your client wants the uniform or whatever you're making to fit the body. Once I've attached the sleeves, I'm just going to check once more to make sure the measurement is correct before I attach the sides. this point, I'm going to add in my darts. So here I'm putting in 1/2 inch darts. What you could do to make this process easier is to just use your pattern and mark the 2 areas where your darts should go. Or you could have just nudged that area in the beginning. So it's up to you, but this is the way how I do it. I normally just mark the middle point and do the dart from here. I am also adding 2 darts at the back. So this is me marking the point for the darts and putting them in. Once I've sewn the darts in, I'm just going to press them down to ensure that they are laying flat. Here I'm just lining up the 2 sections to make sure that everything is in place because I'm going to be sewing in the sides. So for this section, you're going to need 2 measurements. You're going to need your top arm measurement and your bottom arm measurement. So the circumference around the top part of the arm and the circumference around the area of the arm that you would have wanted the sleeve to stop. I'm gonna mark the bottom arm measurement first, and then for the top arm measurement, I'm going to start marking it from the shoulder and go straight down to underneath the arm. So wherever the measurement stops, that's where I will stop. Then I will draw a line from the top arm measurement to the bottom arm measurement, then from the bottom arm measurement to the waist measurement. If you don't need the lines, it's totally optional. I normally use the lines because it helps me to ensure that both sides are the same. So I'm just going to join my lines, connect those, then I'm going to secure it with pins and sew it at the machine. Just showing you the secured sections that I'm gonna sew. Then from here, you are going to measure out about 1.5 inch or 2 inch here. Flip it over and secure that with a pin because you're going to be sewing on the flip edge. So flip it over, secure it with a pin, and you are going to sew both sides like that, 1.5 inch to 2 inches. So once you have done that, then you can flip it back over. You will see when I've done it. So I'm just going to flip and secure, then I will go to the sewing machine. Let's cut the skirt and prepare it. So this is a pleated skirt and it's going to have 3 sections. So it's going to have 2 small sections for the front and 1 large section for the back. I'm just measuring out the length of the skirt, which should be 14, and I'm going to add 2 inches for the hemming allowance. So once I have done that, then I'm going to measure the amount of material that I need and start with the pleats. So I'm starting with the pleats at the back. So the pleats are going to come in from both sides, then they're going to meet in the middle. But you will see what I'm talking about as I go along. The waist is 20 inches. It means the back part should be 10 inches when I'm finished putting in the pleats, and the 2 front sections should be 5 inches each, along with a 1 inch allowance for the overlap. So the 2 front sections should be 6 inches each, and the back section should be 10 inches once I'm finished. Now I've done a lot of trial and error with my pleats. So for the most part, I normally just do a lot of eyeballing because the trial and errors have helped me to be a good eyeballer. So for the first pleat, I made that pleat about 2 inches. It's going to be fatter than the other pleat. Should I say fatter, wider than the other pleats because of the overlap for the buttons. So I'm just adding in those pleats to ensure that everything comes together well. And I had said that this is the back piece. I'm going to correct myself. This is the front piece. So this is one of the front piece that will be added. Later on, you will see me doing the back piece. I have put in the pleats. It's now time to measure. And it is 6 inches, and that's what we're going for. So I'm just going to leave like a 1 inch extra on the side to account for my seam allowance and also to sew on my pocket. So I'm going to go ahead and serge that so that it stays in place, and I'm going to also do the other sections. I've finished the 2 front sections and I'm just going to put them together so you can understand what I was saying before about the overlap. So that section that you see peeping out, I'm going to make sure that that is sewn down. So all of that is going to be flat when it is pressed and so forth. So this is the overlap that I'm speaking about. And as you can see, the front section will be finished. If you wish, you could still do a measurement here to make sure that you are still on point. Then we're going to move on to the back. The only difference with the formation of the pleats at the back is that there is no cut. So the pleats are going to be running in the same direction. So from the front section, you have to ensure that it's running in the same direction for both sides, and it's going to continue in the middle until it meets, and that's how the back should look. So there should not be any connection at the back. It's just one straight skirt across, and make sure that the pleats are running in the same direction. So here I'm going to be pressing down the hem area. I find that it's easier when I press it down before I hem it, other than securing it with pins, because pins can move, and this material goes better when you press it down because it won't move. So I'm just going to press down the 2 inches first, and once I've done that, I'm going to fold in 1 inch or 1/2 inch. Well, I don't know. I'm just going to fold it in one more time, then I'm going to press it again. If it doesn't look like 2 inch to you, it probably isn't, but that's okay. It can be 1.5. So I'm just going to fold that in, press it down, and make sure that it is straight and neat for all the sides. So for the 3 sides, I'm going to do the same thing, then sew down the hem. What I like to do here, because the sides are detached, I like to match it from the top, coming right down to ensure that it's folded at the same spot, so that when we come together and we attach these sides, we won't have one up, one down. So I like to measure it down, get that marking from there, and press it down. I'm just going to cut out a little pattern for my pocket. Not necessary, but I like doing it. So all you need is 2 measurements, the length of your pocket and also the width of the part that the hand is going to go through. So once you have that, all you have to do is create that little curve underneath the bottom and go ahead and cut out your pocket, as I'm going to be doing now. I serged my pockets and now I'm going to attach them to the skirt. Here I'm just making sure that the skirt is aligned, because I'm also going to sew the side that does not need a pocket. Remember, both sides are going to be closed because this uniform is open front, so it's button front uniform. So I'm just going to secure the sides, then I'm going to turn it over on the right side to ensure that it's secured properly. If it's not, I will adjust and move on. Now we're going to add our pockets. I like to add my pockets 2 inches down from the waist. And that's before I put on the waistband. So you could do 1.5 to 2 inches down and then it would be fine there. So I'm just going to attach the pockets. Once you have sewn the pockets onto this section, we're just going to put them together. So turn them inwards, then you're going to put them together. And I'm just going to show you where you should sew. So make sure that they're even. That's the first thing. You want to make sure that both pockets, both sides of the pocket is even before securing it with the pin. Remember that you have to leave the 6 inches opening so that the arm can pass through the pocket. So you're going to secure 2 inches down, then you're going to go around the pocket, come back around, then go down. And I'm just securing this middle right here, not to sew it, but just to put everything together so that the material does not shift. So I'm not securing that middle section because that's where the hand will go through. You will see as we go along. The time has come for us to measure and attach the waistband. So the first thing I'm going to do is measure the skirt to see how much material I will be needing for the waistband. Once I have done that, then I'm going to measure the material. And for this waistband, it's going to be about 2 inches. So the material that we have here is, of course, we're going to fold it. So on the fold, it would be 3.5 inches, but the waistband is going to be about 2.5 inches instead of 2. So thereabout, because we have to account for the area underneath that will not be added to the total width of the waistband. So I'm just going to go ahead and sew the area here, and that's going to go on the front. So I'm going to sew that, then I'm going to flip it over, press it down. So both edges, you should do that too. So once you have measured it out, you are going to do this to both edges. So sew it down on the inside, then you're going to flip it over. It makes things so much easier and neater as well. From here, I'm just going to serge the end of the waistband to ensure that I don't have any fuzzy edges that's going to give issues later on. So I'm just serging the ends in order to attach it. Now let's attach the waistband to the skirt. You want to ensure that the waistband is in total alignment with the skirt. So you don't want it to spill over and you don't want it to be short. So make sure it's in total alignment. Then you're going to secure that area with pins right around the circumference of the skirt. Once you're finished securing, then so now we're going to connect the top and the skirt. The first thing I'm going to do is just to lay out the top, and to connect it with the skirt, the first thing we have to think about is the measurement from shoulder to waist that we had before, and we're going to take off 2 inches from that because the waistband of the skirt accounts for that amount. So I'm just going to be marking the measurement, then I'm going to draw a line right around that will help me to just connect the skirt to the blouse. So we're just putting in the final pins now, and once I'm finished making the connection, I'm just going to ensure that both sides are in alignment. If it's not in alignment, then something went wrong and you're going to have to go back and just fix that. So from here, I'm going to be doing the color. The first step is to measure from where we sewed right around to the other section to see the length of the color that we will need. Once I have the length of that color, I'm just going to write it down somewhere else because I easily forget. Anyways, I'm just going to sew on the waistband to secure it. Then after that, I will move on to my collar. Once we are finished with that, we're going to move on to measuring our color. So I'm going to be measuring out the color, and of course you're going to need to add like 1 inch seam allowance or ½ inch on each side. It's up to you because we're going to have a little slant. So you want to add more than ½ inch actually, So add about 2 inches over because it's going to have a little slant at both edges. So you want to add a little over so that you don't make a mistake. So as for the width, I want my collar width to be 4 inches. So I'm going to measure 8 inches up. So the color will be about 3.5 inches when I'm finished. It will be about 3.5 instead of 4. And that's good for me as well. You want to fold that in two, and from here we're going to be measuring to make sure we have the 4 inches. And of course, as I said, we're going to have about 3.5 inches at the end since we're going to serge the bottom and also to attach it to the neck. So I'm just putting a mark right there. Isn't 100% necessary, but optional. I love lines, as you can already see. So I'm just going to measure at the bottom the length that I got from the collar. Then I'm going to draw in a diagonal line. In this section, you want to make sure that your measurements are precise, because if it's over a little bit, you're going to have to go back to the machine and fix it, because remember that both of the sides are already sewn. So it has to be exact. So I'm just ensuring, here I will just be ensuring that my measurements are on point, then I will sew. I didn't mention that the fabric is on the wrong side now, because I'm going to be sewing it on the wrong side, then I will flip it over to the right side. I have serged the end of the collar, and I'm just going to attach it and secure it with pins. You can just look the way I attach my collar. Everybody does it in a different way, but I find that this way works best for me. So I normally attach it this way, then I would sew on the outside. But you'll see what I'm doing. For my method, as I said, I normally sew on the outside as well to ensure that the section that I serged, it stays down. So I'm going to sew and ensure that there are no folded edges, there are no parts of the material that is overlapping. I find that this way of sewing on the collar is very easy for me and it's less painstaking. I've tried the other ways of sewing it and it did not work for me. So this is the way I use. So as you can see, nothing is going to lift. It's just going to stay down the way it should. And from here, all we need to do is just to trim up and mark out the areas for the buttons to be sewed on. I normally use 3 inches between my buttons. So as you should probably guess by now, I'm gonna be using lines. My buttonholes are 3 inches apart and they are 1 inch wide. Little bit under an inch basically because there's a little space at the edge. So it's a little under an inch wide. So I have already cut the holes in my buttonholes and I'm just going to align both sides of the uniform and make a mark with my pencil through the holes so I can align my buttons in the right place. This is the finished product when I have added my buttons. So we are finished finally at the end. When you have gotten here, if you choose to, you can do some measurements as well to ensure that it's correct. It should be correct because you should have been measuring along the way. The only thing left for us to do now is to just press down our pleats so that they are laying flat and beautiful. So this is how the uniform is looking when I have pressed down the pleats. Thank you so much guys for staying tuned. See you again in the next video.